Thank you. Miss June Towns, everyone. I think everyone's ready to stand by you after that. You've probably noticed that we have Minister Farrakhan in the house here with us today. We ask that he come up and give a few reflections of his own.
Thank you. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, I greet all of you this morning with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum, but it means peace be unto you. Those of us who are Christians know that Jesus never met his disciples or left his disciples without saying, peace be with you. The peace that Jesus and the prophets offered was not a word, but it was a system of behavior that led to peace between man and woman, and there can never be peace between us as human beings until we are at peace with our Creator. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. should never, ever be reduced to a dream. He was more than a dreamer, but he was a visionary that was evolving toward a magnificent state of mind that we did not see the end to which Dr. King was growing. He made the I Have a Dream speech in 1963. But by 1968, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who had joined with Dr. King in a war on poverty, was engaged in a war in Vietnam. And Dr. Martin Luther King, from the Riverside Church in New York, spoke passionately against teaching his people nonviolence in America. And he had to speak against violence in Vietnam. At the same time, this great man, who said in the beginning of this booklet that he chose to identify with the underprivileged, he chose to identify with the poor, he chose to give his life for the hungry, and to give his life for those who have been left out of the sunlight of opportunity. In all of the presidential nominees' speeches and the president's speeches, I never heard one mention of the poor. And if we who sit in this room who are privileged forget the poor, then our privileged positions are shaky. The tsunami that took place in Asia with an earthquake on the floor of the ocean, and the tectonic plates moved, creating the tsunami, that's a sign that all our governments, all our nations are built on the poor. And if there's a shaking among the poor, then the institutions that are built on the backs of the poor will crumble and fall. We cannot be hypocritical in our praise of Dr. King and not follow through on the principles that he lived his life on and the principles that he gave his life for. In closing, I'm honored beyond words to be here this morning with this magnificent body of human beings, men and women of power and influence that can make a change in our world. Right now, history is repeating. We are at war, a senseless war. And if Dr. Martin Luther King were alive today, he would not be speaking platitudes. He would be speaking against the senseless war in Iraq, which is taking the lives of our young boys and girls and making many families miserable and taking the lives of Iraqis in untold numbers. So I appeal to the people of influence and power, not only to honor Dr. King with our words, because Jesus said, "These are they who honor me with their lips, but not in their lives." We must recommit ourselves to making our world better, not by getting more and more things, but by raising the standard of living of those whom Dr. King identified his life with. As I take my seat, thanking you for the honor of allowing me a few words to say, remember the words of Jesus. When the disciples asked him, "Master, when were you hungry and I fed you not? When were you naked and we clothed you not? When were you out of doors and we gave you not shelter? And when were you sick and imprisoned and we ministered not unto you?" And Jesus said, "Inasmuch as you have not done these things to the least of these, my brethren, you have not done it also unto me." And if you study the scripture, that is the yardstick by which nations and civilizations will be judged. How we do to the least of these who could never sit in a room like this and eat a breakfast like we are eating. But there are many in America this morning who have nothing to eat and no one to champion their cause. May God bless us to be like Dr. King and champion the cause of the poor. Thank you.